Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, putting together a little odds and ends video for you this week. Got stuff stacking up again in the shop. I've been trying to do about one of these a month and maybe toward the end of the month, and it just kind of helps clears my bench out behind me because I tend to stack this stuff up over there until we get it on video. But I got several items here I think you guys will find interesting, and we're going to get to those in just a minute. But before we do, let me take one more chance here to put in a little plug for the upcoming ArnFest event that's going to be held September 20th through 19th through 22nd. And this is, of course, an annual event. If you follow my channel, you probably heard me talk about this many times in the past. This is the 15th annual one of these events. We call it ArnFest. Again, Arn, A-R-N, is kind of a play on word on iron for us guys who like old machinery that are made out of iron. So ArnFest is held at the Illinois Railway Museum in Union, Illinois, which is a little bit west of the Chicago area, kind of between Chicago and Rockford, up in that area of the state. And it's at a great venue. The Illinois Railway Museum, if you've never been there, is an awesome place. One of the largest railroad museums anywhere in the country. They have an incredible collection of stuff. But during this ArnFest event, we kind of take over one of their shops up there. They give us access to their wood shop and where they rebuild their trolleys, and they kind of let us get in there and use some of the equipment for demonstrations and be able to do some stuff behind the scenes. If you just show up to the museum, a lot of what we're doing at ArnFest is kind of separate from that, but of course you have access to the whole museum while you're there. Starts on Thursday the 19th, very soft start on that first day, usually around lunchtime people starting to come in. Really things start kicking off on Friday. We'll have some things going on there. The big day, of course, is on the Saturday, which will be the 20th of September 2019, and that's the morning that we have the big swap meet. The swap meet is usually held out in the parking lot area of the museum, and that usually starts whenever they open the gates. I don't remember exactly what time, 7, 8 a.m., something like that. And it usually runs for a couple of hours and then starts winding down. There'll be people that have stuff out there a good part of the day, but really probably most everything starts winding down around 10 o'clock in the morning or so as other events start happening during the ArnFest event. I haven't seen the final schedule yet as far as demonstrations and so forth like that are planned, but there's usually something going on all throughout. Usually through the ArnFest group, we have the opportunity to get some private tours of different parts of the Illinois Railway Museum. So usually they do a steam shop tour where you actually get to go in there and see where they do the restoration work on the steam locomotives and so forth. I know in the past they've done tours of the diesel shop. They've done tours of some of their collections, their heavy rail car collections like sleeper cars and private cars and stuff. They're really kind of neat, a lot of history there. So anyway, if you're interested in coming, you need to register ahead of time. There is a fee to attend, and you can find out that information online. Just go to www.arnfest.com. As this morning, I went in there and looked, and as of this morning, there were about 75 people already signed up for the event. So it looks like it's going to be a really good event, well attended. We've still got another month or so before registration really closes on this and before the event actually happens. So if you want to come on out, I'd love to see folks. It's a great opportunity to get to meet many of my viewers, to get to come out and see some old machinery and get to hang out with a lot of really cool people that like similar things as we like. So again, September 19th through 22nd, the big days are of course be on that Saturday the 20th. ArnFest.com is where you can go to register at, and hope to see many of you up there. And with that, let's get in over here and start looking at some of the items we got picked up. This is a combination of viewer mail and some purchases and so forth that I have made over the last month or so. New additions for the shop. Let's get at it. So first here, got a really nice collection of tooling, a bunch of taper shank drill bits, some really nice big taps here. And this all came from Walter Hicks, who lives out in the Denver, Colorado area. And Walter was kind enough to think about me. He went to one of his little favorite shopping places up there, which is a place called Surplus Tools in Denver, Colorado. And when he was in there, they had a bunch of stuff that was basically these drill bits and taps and toolings and stuff that they had marked down dirt cheap. And he went through there. I think he got some stuff for himself. He saw some of this stuff, says, you know what, I'm going to get some things for Keith, which, wow, just thanks a lot. I mean, this is awesome, but he got me a collection or a selection here of some tooling and was kind enough to pack it up and send it up to me. A lot of this, these drill bits in here are brand spanking new, never been used. Some of them are regrinds where they have resharpened them, but they're in great shape and a really nice collection. So I'm going to be putting these in over there with my other taper shank drills. Probably going to be upgrading some of the ones that I have because these are nicer than many that I have. So this is going to be really nice. Really nice collection, and Walter cannot thank you enough for all of this. He said many of these items were, you know, anywhere from about 98 cents a piece up to about $2 a piece. Some of the bigger stuff was $3 or $4 a piece. But anyway, if you're in the Denver area, you may want to go check out Surplus Tools there in Denver. He says it's a really neat place and lots of stuff in there. And if I'm ever in the Denver area, I'll probably be checking it out myself. So Walter, thanks a lot. I'm going to start putting the stuff up so we'll have it when we need it. In a previous odds and ends episode, I showed you guys a little mold I had for casting some lead soft jaws to go on a 4-inch vise. And I made a comment that I needed to get some lead, and lo and behold, lead starts showing up everywhere. And anyway, I got two people I want to give a thanks out here to. First, and I've got my little melting pot because he actually sent me some small ingots, and I melted them down and was playing around with that mold before I ever actually showed the little ingots he did. But Bob Teeter actually sent these to me. Bob has sent stuff to me several times in the past, and Bob, I appreciate that greatly. And then about the time I got these ingots, Carl White from up in Kennesaw, Georgia, contacted me, and he said he had a big chunk. I think he said this chunk weighs 23 pounds, and I believe him. And he sent that along to me as well. So now I have no excuse for not pouring lead hammers and lead vise soft jaws. So I need to do a little video on the soft jaw mold and show that out. I was playing around with it the other day, but I was just playing with it. I didn't shoot any video on it. But plenty of lead to work with now. Thank you, Carl, and thank you, Bob, for what's in the bucket here. And thank you very much. Appreciate it, and it'll go to a good use. Next item. Everybody knows how I love books, right? So Alan Wixby sent me a couple of books here, and there's more to this than it appears. So first off, just an old elementary school dictionary, and anyway, he put a note in here, but this right here, guys, is going to end up with my wife. She's already seen it, and she's already laid claims to it. She is a English teacher. She's actually now an administrator in high school, but she has historically been an English teacher. Deep down, she's an English teacher, and she's got a thing for old dictionaries and old school books, old McDuffie readers and things like that. I have a feeling that this will end up in her office, sitting on her desk, because she just likes them. And then the aluminum composites book over here by Kay Gonsberg. You probably look at that and think, why in the world would anybody want to read a book about that? And that's the whole purpose of it, because this is not what it appears. It's actually one of these little book safes, and it opens up, and inside you got a place to put stuff, and he filled it up with all kinds of little goodies here. So, little 1-inch paintbrush. There's a couple of these scales in here, and look at here, Adam Booth. It's a Gerstner and Sons scale. How about that? Little die stock here. Got a pair of these little Surgical tools, these things, man, I use these for, I got a collection of these, and these just come in handy for all kinds of stuff in the shop. I see there's a bunch of taps in here, so I get those put up over there with my tap stuff. This is kind of cool. So it looks like the paintbrush, but it's actually steel. It's a steel bristle, so working on something, need to scrub it off, clean it up. I don't have one of those. That's pretty cool. Let's see, I think these were actually some more taps here. Center drill, can't have too many of those. A couple of carpenter's pencils. Got another little die stock here. That was made by Morse. And an Audell's book. These Audell's books, there was a whole collection of these things, all kinds of different subjects, technical training books. This one happens to be on, it's an automobile guide. And if you're working on an old car, I'm sure this will probably come in handy. I've got a bunch of Audell's books. I don't think I have this one, so I'll add it to the collection. And look at here, we got another scale. This one is also Gerstner and Sons. Wonder who might want that. So anyway, very nice little collection of tools, some nice little books, a little book safe here. I really like that. And anyway, thanks a lot to Mr. Alton for sending these along to me. Appreciate it greatly. And I'll put these tools up, get them where we can use them. Thanks a lot. Up next, got a couple of items. This was sent in by Ralph Rogers up in Idaho. And this, I know what this is. This is for boring various size holes. You drill a pilot hole and you can adjust these pieces of high-speed steel. There's 3 of them. And put it in like my big radial arm drill will work with this, and you can use it as a boring head basically to bore a hole to whatever size you want. You can set this diameter to whatever you want. Pretty handy little tool, particularly if you need to do an oddball size hole that you may not have a drill bit for. You can just use this right here. So I'm sure this will come in handy. This, I'm really not exactly sure what this is. It looks like some type of an adapter between a couple of tapers. I don't know what tapers those are. They don't ring a bell. Some of you guys out there may recognize exactly what it is, but it looks like we had a taper that this fit up into and it adapted to another taper on the other side, but I have no clue what that might have been used for. It looks like it was probably shop made as well. So really no telling, but we'll throw it over there in the pile, and who knows, one day we may find a use for it or repurpose it into something else. So anyway, a couple of nice little items there. Thanks a lot for sending those in. So here's a recent purchase that I made for the shop, a nice little item. I've actually been looking for one of these for a while, and when we were on our way up to Milwaukee with the planer to have ground, I was invited to come in by a viewer, Stephen Tunis, who lives up near Peoria, Illinois. And he had actually his father had a big shop full of tools and tooling and basically a whole machine shop, and unfortunately he passed away several years ago, and they're trying to find a home for some stuff. And I think they're probably going to just have a big auction to come in there and sell the stuff for the family. But while we were up there, Lance and I got to looking through and saw a couple of items that Lance ended up getting a few things. I ended up getting this, and we made him an offer for him, made a deal with him just on a couple of items that we saw in there that we could use. And this is something that I can use. So what is this? This is what is often called a super spacer, and it's used for indexing certain sections of a turn, so to speak, for all kinds of things. So if you got for example, you need to mill some 4 slots in something, or you're need to mill a square on something, you can just come in here. It's got a plate in the back that you can release the chuck. It spins around and it goes into different slots on here. This one actually has a 24 plate in there, so there's 24 different notches, and so that's 15-degree increments. You can read the degrees up here on the to actually have it on here. So for most indexing that you do, 24 plate will do most anything you need. So anyway, it's a nice little thing to have. This one sits either this way, or you can set it straight up too. It's flat on the bottom. I'll show you on the back side here. Turn it around, and I've just got a little ring in here to hold this in place. I'd already pulled it off, but you can see the plate back there and how it works. So there's just a little lever here. You push that, it opens it up, and again, you can just spin this around to go into different index holes. And anyway, it's kind of like a dividing head. It doesn't do near the number of divisions that a dividing head will, but it will allow you to do your common stuff here on 15-degree angles. And you can actually change these plates out with different plates if you need to use different hole patterns. If you're always using it, for example, to say a three division, you can get one that only has 3 slots in there, so it really kind of takes some of the guesswork out. But this one here is real handy like it is. So anyway, we'll put all this back together. There we go. So that's all held in there now. And again, if you need to do up and down, just flip it over, and we can do it off the top, sitting on something that's not flat. Came with a chuck key and a nice chuck on here, made by Hartford, which is a brand I'm honestly not familiar with, but it looks like it's very well built. Anyway, this is something I haven't had in the shop, and I've been kind of keeping an eye out for one, and this one showed up, and like I said, we worked out a good deal on it, and glad to have it in here. And Stephen, thanks for letting us come take a look, and I'm hoping that y'all can get an auction up there to sell out your dad's tools and tooling. An amazing collection of stuff that they had up there. A lot of nice machines, a lot of nice tools and tooling to go along with it. And anyway, family's wanting to find a new home for it, so hopefully they can work that out soon. Over here on the big Monarch 28-inch lathe that I've had in the shop, and it's been kind of an ongoing project. Haven't really worked on it real hard, but this is something that I'm really wanting to get going. Probably whenever I finish the planer restoration, I'm gonna go ahead and knock this one out. It's quite honestly probably halfway done. I just need to finish a few things on it. But when I got it, I didn't have a tailstock for it. That was one of the big issues. And last year up at ArnFest, I actually stopped and picked up this tailstock and this steady rest for this lathe. These came off of I think it was a model 61 Monarch, which was a model right before this one. They fit, everything's fine. There were a few little minor differences between them, but these are going to work fine. Only problem I had with this original tailstock, though, was that this one had a built-in live center in it. Instead of having a Morse taper like most of them, this was made for a production machine that was turning between centers, so it just had a live center built right into the tailstock. I wanted to have one that had a Morse taper in it because that's really what I needed. And my plan was I was going to make a new quill to go inside of this. Lo and behold, earlier in the year, a couple of months ago, I got contacted by Brian G. up in Greensboro, North Carolina, and he was at his local scrap dealer, and they had a same thing, Monarch 61 lathe that was out on the scrap yard that was about to be scrapped. And he was kind enough, he contacted me, said, hey, you want any parts off of this? I'm like, yeah, I'd really like to get the tailstock, even though I already had one. Now the swing on the other one was a little bit smaller swing, and if you look, this tailstock is a little bit lower. But I figured this was the case. I wasn't 100% sure until I got it in the shop, but the castings on the top are pretty much identical. Now this one has a little 90-degree turn that where the dial is in front. This one is on the back side, but really these top castings are otherwise exactly the same. They just have a different size riser block up underneath them. So he was able to grab this one, and this one has the quill in it that I want. So plan here is we're going to take parts from the two, combine them together, make one good tailstock, and that's one less thing I've got to worry about making. I believe, I haven't taken these apart yet, but I believe that I can just take this quill out and put it on this one that has the front-facing hand wheel. If it's different on the inside, no big deal. I just can just swap these two top castings and use this whole back end here and just put it on the higher base that's up underneath it. So anyway, real excited to have this. Brian was able to snag that for me, and he actually made a trip down to Tifton a couple of weekends ago. He wanted to come by the shop, and actually he had also recently purchased a pretty good collection of straight edges for doing scraping work, and some of them were pretty long. He wanted to get them blued up on my big surface plate, so he brought those down. We blued them all up, checked them all out, actually tuned one of them up to get it scraped back in. So anyway, he made a little trip down and we got that done. But big thank you out to Brian for number one, thinking of me, and number two, grabbing these parts for me and then bringing them down to me. So awesome there. This is going to be a huge help. And honestly, I've really been dreading thinking about having to make this quill, but now I don't have to worry about it. So this machine, like I said, is probably next in the queue to be finished up. I need to get the tailstock, go through it. I need to do some work on the cross slide. There's a little bit of work. I need to replace some hydraulic hoses and a couple other little smaller things on this. The machine runs. We got the motor working. Everything looks like it's in good shape. I just need to really kind of finish it up. So hopefully when the planer's done, we'll get the big 28-inch lathe going, and I'll have this in the arsenal to use around the shop. And thanks to Brian, and thanks to this one here as well. You know, we've got what we need to get this back up and going. When I got this lathe, guys, I honestly questioned whether I'd ever be able to find a tailstock for it, and now I've got two, and they're both a little bit different. Still got to do some modifications, but we're in great shape now, so that is awesome. Thanks, Brian, for helping me out on that. And we picked up a new machine for the shop, and this one just kind of literally fell in my lap. I went to lunch the other day with a friend of mine here locally, runs a local motor shop, and while we were having lunch, he just happened to mention, hey, by the way, he says, we got this big grinder out back behind the shop, and we got it from a local factory somehow or another, and we just need the thing gone. Do you got any interest in it? He showed me a picture of it, and I'm like, heck yeah. So he just gave it to me to get it out of their way. So couldn't turn down a deal like that. So this is a big grinder made by the Standard Electrical Tool Company, and looks like it's seen its better days, but I think it'll also clean up really well. It spins freely. Haven't put any power to it yet. It's currently wired for 440. I'm going to have to do some rewiring in the motor to get it where I can run it on 223 phase, but no big deal there. But I'll probably strip this thing down, give it a new paint job, probably put some new bearings in the motor just to be on the safe side, and go to using her. It's got two wheels in there that the diameters have been worn down a good bit, but they're probably usable as they are. I may see about getting some new wheels for it as well. Have to figure out what size arbor this takes. Looks like just looking at it, looks like probably at least an inch arbor, but I'm guessing off of that. But anyway, nice little new addition to the shop. I've got a big 12-inch grinder, a bow door grinder over here with a 5 horsepower motor on it I've been using for quite some time. I absolutely love that big grinder, and yeah, can't have too many of these kinds of things. So we can put some different kinds of wheels on it or something like that. I may put some wire wheels or something like that on it. We'll see. But anyway, nice to have around, and the price was right. So with a little restoring job on this one, this joker's going to look brand spanking new and should make for a nice tool in the shop. Well, guys, I think that's going to be a wrap on this episode of Odds and Ends. Just one more quick plug for ArnFest. Coming up here in September 21st, 22nd time frame up in Union, Illinois at the Illinois Railway Museum. Please, guys up in that area, come on out. We'd love to see folks. It's always a great opportunity to shake viewers' hands and get to see some folks and put names with faces. Always enjoy doing that. And also the swap meet on that morning is always worth heading out to as well. And with that, guys, I think it's going to be a wrap on this episode. So thanks as always for watching, Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And guys, we'll catch you on the next video.